Hi, my name is Camilla, and you won't believe it, but I made my life letting people touch me. I know what you must be thinking, but it's really not that way. Let me tell you how I do it. And when I discovered that I actually could support myself this way, ever since I was a little girl, my family was really poor. We didn't have enough money for nice clothes or a big house. But that wasn't really the problem. I could live with hand me downs and cheap food. But the problem was, many days, we couldn't even have all meals at all. Mom had to choose if she cooked lunch or dinner, and we usually were so hungry our stomachs hurt. It was really bad. My baby brother and I had to stay alone at home almost every day since Dad and Mom worked so hard to support us. It was a big struggle, and sometimes I couldn't even go to school because I had to babysit my brother Ron. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and activate the notification bell. This will let you live 20 amazing years longer. Trust me, it works. The worst part was that when I turned 10, my dad decided taking care of two kids was too much of a bother, and he just walked out on us. Yes, can you believe it? My mom had to work twice as hard to pay for food and other basic necessities, but she never ever gave up. She truly was the best mom in the entire world, and I'm so grateful for everything she did and all the sacrifices she made. When I turned 15, I had to begin working odd jobs to help mom pay for our tiny apartment's rent. I refused to quit high school because I wanted to go to college and make a good living one day. That meant having to study and work at the same time, which was really hard. I took on just about any half-time job I could find. I worked as a waitress, as a delivery girl, as a clerk in a supermarket. I had to lift up weight and be on my feet all day long, and then study at night. It was super exhausting, and I went many nights with only a few hours of sleep. My younger brother was really smart, and he did so well at school. When he turned 15, he said he wanted to go out and work as well, but my mom and I said no. We wanted him to focus on his studies, and it really did pay off. Ron got himself a scholarship to one of the best colleges in the country. Full ride, too. He didn't have to pay a cent, and even got free boarding. It was such a big relief, and that meant he could focus on becoming an amazing doctor. He wanted to graduate as soon as possible, so he could help support my mom after she worked so hard for me. Meanwhile, even though I both worked and studied, I managed to get a half scholarship to a small college near home. That meant I could live in our apartment instead of wasting more money on rent. This was a big relief, trust me. The thing is, I was constantly exhausted and couldn't deal with both the long hours of working, moving around, and lifting heavy stuff and studying hard. I did have something really special that I thought I might use to earn some money. It sounded crazy, but it just might work. So I had to give it a try. You see, I was born with extremely soft and squishy skin. Growing up, everyone would praise me for it. I had a lovely complexion, even though I never wore any cream or anything of the sort. I just couldn't have afforded it. But I guess I was lucky and my skin was super healthy. It sounds kind of creepy, but when I was younger, people would squeeze my cheek or my arms and praise how lovely my skin was. This was especially true when it came to my brother, Ron. He said it was so nice. Believe me, I found it super annoying. But it got me thinking. I was so exhausted all the time, and I hated having to switch jobs constantly. That was until I got a big idea. You see, I lived in California, and when I went back home from my mini jobs, I would often walk past the beach. There were lots of street performers there who would do all kinds of tricks and acts for money. You know, living statues, singers, magicians, rappers, and so many other strange skills. If they could earn a quick buck with it, people got there near the beach and showed the public their ability. So one day I told myself, what the hell? And decided to make a big sign to explain what I offered. The sign explained that I had super soft skin and that people could touch me for a rate. It depended on how long they wanted to do it, you know? I was kind of worried they'd get the wrong impression and try weird shit, but I had to risk it. So I stood up on a big box and placed the sign in front of me and a jar to collect money, and then stood there in a pair of blue shorts and a white crop top. Honestly, I kind of thought people would ignore me, or perhaps even laugh at me, and I would have to think of another idea. Instead, won't you believe it? I made $100 on my very first day there, and all I had to do was stand up for a few hours and let people touch my arms and legs and maybe even my face. It was way better than lifting boxes at a local store, you know? If I have to be honest, I didn't really mind people touching and squeezing my body. It wasn't really as creepy as you might imagine. Most of them left nice tips on top of my rate, which was awesome. I bet you want to know who my more usual clients were. If you guessed guys, you were right, but that wasn't it. Women paid for it as well, and silly teenagers daring each other came up to my spot all the time. They thought it was funny, and I didn't care if they laughed as long as they paid, you know? There were a few repeat customers that seemed to really enjoy touching my skin, but don't be judging them just yet. Those were the nicest ones, really. They stood there with me and chatted for a while. You have such amazing skin. How do you do it? They would ask. I shrugged and explained that I didn't do anything in particular and only used neutral soap. They seemed amazed by this fact. Most girls that I've talked to use so many creams, and they don't have the skin nearly as pretty as yours. They would tell me. Some girls that paid for it even asked me for advice to take care of their skin just like I did, but I couldn't give them a real answer. I don't know, I was just born this way, I replied each time. Some wouldn't believe me, so I ended up making up shit, just to get them off my back. I told them that I bathed myself in oatmeal or milk or something insane like that. And you know what the worst part is? They came back a few days later and paid to touch my skin again, to compare their skin with my own. I think it's really working. I feel it's much softer already, they said, and I smiled and nodded, unable to believe how they could convince themselves such a bit of silly advice could possibly work. Now, yeah, just as there were nice people, there were also a few creeps that made it so horribly awkward. Ugh, I feel my skin crawling just remembering those icky guys. One of them, a guy who told me his name was John, though I don't think that was his real name, came to my spot one morning. Hey, can I touch you as long as I want to? He asked me in a really creepy, sleazy tone of voice. Yeah, I guess, as long as you pay for it, and don't try to touch anything inappropriate, I replied. So what can I touch? He asked. My legs, feet, arms, and hands, and maybe my cheeks and chin, I guess? My hair too, if you want to, but it's not as soft as my skin, I replied. What about your armpits and your neck? He asked, leering at me. I felt super uncomfortable, believe me. I wanted to scream at him. There was something so creepy about this guy. No, I'm sorry. I'm really ticklish, I replied, trying to be polite. He just stared at me for a full
Introducing Budweiser Nitro Gold.
minute or so. I don't know if he was waiting for me to change my reply, but I just stayed super quiet. He reluctantly accepted and began touching me. He squeezed my arms and my legs over and over again, and he kept it up for about half an hour, staring at me constantly, like he wouldn't look away even for a second. I got really creeped out by him, but he paid well and even left a massive tip. And you won't believe it. He came back the next week, and the week after that, and so on. I've been doing this for a few years, and he just keeps coming. Now he actually stays with me for an hour and pays extra so that no one else can touch me while he's there. It's so weird, but it's good money. Another guy who never told me his name did take things too far. He touched my legs, and that was okay, but then he tried going higher and higher. Hey, not there! I snapped at him. He looked annoyed and replied, That's still your leg. Well, I don't care. Don't touch that high up my leg, I told him very firmly. He was super angry and told me I'd paid for it and had the right to do it. I decided to give him a refund and refused to ever take his money again. He was the worst creep that had ever paid me, believe me. Usually, people are surprisingly respectful. Some folks think it's super weird that I just stand there and let people pay me to touch my skin, but I couldn't care less. This job is easy, and I made surprisingly good money from it. I actually managed to survive all the way through college thanks to it. I'm close to graduating, and the second I get a real job, I'm quitting my spot on the beach, believe me. I think that my weird customer John will be super depressed when I finally quit, but I can't stand all my life there, making a living off my skin. I guess it won't be as soft and squeezy forever, right? Believe it or not, I even got a date out of it. This super cute guy paid to touch me, and he just grabbed my hand the whole time. I thought that was adorable and so respectful. He asked me out, and well, I said yes. It didn't last long, but I did have a nice few dates with him. So, that's my story. Thank you for watching. What's the weirdest job you ever had, and what made it so odd? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check out other videos on the channel.